Hi guys, welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host, Savannah Sharp. This is my mindset motivation podcast. I give amateur competitors a voice to share their story and hopefully help motivate you to start your own fitness journey. On today's episode, I have Michelle. Michelle is another amateur competitor. She's done 4 competitions and we go over her fitness journey. She also works as a mental health and mindset coach. She takes on lifestyle clients and she balances all of these different things. So we go over, overcoming mental health struggles throughout prep. We go over like determining how to deal with your placing. We go over, telling friends and family that you're now a new bodybuilder. So I think there's just so many different things to take away from this episode. I had such a blast recording it, and I just can't wait for you guys to listen to this episode. I hope you have a great week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. This episode is 100% free, but I would sincerely appreciate it if you took 5 seconds, screenshot it, share it with a friend, post it on your Instagram stories, and tag me and Michelle. All right, let's dive right in to this cupcakes and protein shakes. I know you miss me. Happy Wednesday. Let's get started. When did you get started in the fitness journey, and why did that happen?
So ultimately, I got started in fitness from a young age. I mean, I've been athletic my whole life. I played 5 sports in high school
Oh, wow.
and moved on to play college softball my first couple of years of college. So already very athletic, working out. I did have to take some weight training classes, but it was very moderate. And it wasn't until I quit softball that I actually really started my fitness journey. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kayla Itziness, BBG. Ring a bell at all? No.
No, I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe I'm sure I follow like hundreds and hundreds of Fitspos.
right. I want to say she originated the female workout movement. So she's
Okay.
from Australia, millions of followers.
Does she have like a big butt?
No, she's
Okay.
small,
Because there's,
little.
okay.
Her program is body weight focused.
Okay.
So not like a lifting program. So more like circuit training, push-ups, things like that. She's a really cute little Australian girl. But anyways, I did her program. This is circa 2015, I want to say, when I quit softball.
Okay.
Because you've been playing sports your whole life. Once you quit softball, you're going to gain a bunch of weight, which I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to do the opposite. So ultimately, I did that. I lost a bunch of weight, kind of had my own transformations that she ended up posting. And that got me the following that I have ultimately. So she reposted my transformations. I got some followers. People started asking me questions and I knew nothing. So I got my certification. I'm a personal trainer as well. And then ultimately, I mean, it's a long story, but I got into competing at some point. I worked at Gold's Gym. I met my now coach, Laura Mercier. I actually met her doing promos for a supplement company. Super random.
Oh, wow. That is super random.
Yeah. And just she was probably the first competitor I knew. And I didn't know what this whole bodybuilding thing was. Sure, I've seen people at Gold's Gym that look like they compete and are huge, but
Right.
ultimately know anything about competing in bikini.
Okay.
And yeah,
So up until this point, how many competitions have you done?
done 4.
Okay. And then placing wise, can you just briefly walk me through just placing?
Yeah, so I want to say my first show, I placed first in true novice, third in novice, and then 5th in open.
Uh-huh.
And then my second show, I placed second in both novice and open. So I got second in both those, and that was last year. And then this year,
Okay.
I did not place in my first show, which was huge. I got nothing in novice or my overall, and that was soul crushing. But I continued. I did another show the following week, and I got first in novice, and I got, what did I even get? Third in, right? Yeah, third in my open.
Okay. So we're going to come back to that. I don't want to forget about it, but let's go to the first competition, first show. So leading up to it, did you start with a coach?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So my real journey started when I was working at Gold's Gym. They have this kind of beginning of January 12-week transformation challenge. And I'd already known Laura. Laura is now an IFBB pro.
Yeah.
At the time, she was an NBC bikini competitor. I was friends with her and I was interested in competing, but like wasn't ready for the commitment. So I basically told her I want to do a diet like a bikini competitor without the like stepping on stage part and all that. So we did the 12-week challenge with her as my coach for that.
Okay.
And transformation. And so once I did that, it was just a matter of like excuses, like, you know, like, oh, I'm not ready to do the competition, but I knew I could do it, right? It was just a matter of committing to it.
So when you first said like, I want to do the diet, but I don't want to get on stage, where do you think that came from?
Oh, I'm terrified of the stage. I mean,
Okay.
it's because I think it's not the stage. I think it's more like of the judgment of it. I don't know. I still haven't
Okay.
really like not really love being on the stage. Because the crazy thing is I used to work at Six Flags as a Looney Tunes character and an announcer. So I was on stage in front of random people all the time. But there's a difference between being on stage and like
Yeah.
posing. I think it's the posing. I think if I could go up on stage and just like flex, I'd be
Yeah.
good. But the heels and all that wasn't really me.
So with the posing, like that's always, I think it's everyone's hardest thing. It's the posing because it is so freaking awkward. I don't care how long you've been doing it. It is unnatural to be twisting and tightening and whatever you have to do to get on stage. So leading up into like your first show, what was your like practice routine like for posing? Like, did it come naturally? Were you an awkward deer? Were you super nervous?
Oh my God, it was awful.
Okay.
I also looking back, especially now at those videos, like I was like a robot. Like I could not flow with it. And so it took a lot of practice, a lot of working with my coach, as well as working with another one of my friends who's the IFBB pro, Kaylee. She helped me a lot with the posing as well. And as awful as it was at the beginning, like I realized that just the more you practice and the more you try to be comfortable and try to feel it, the better it will get. Like it's gotten so much better each and every time I step on stage.
Is there anything that you do to like help yourself get confident before going on stage?
Deep breathing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just really try to get into the music. So like a lot of times there's like this crazy music. So I try to just get myself kind of pumped and focused on that. I also think about the photos. I'm a very like Instagram person. So it's hard for me before stage to be like, okay, they're judging me. Instead, I think, okay, get some bomb ass photos. And then I step on stage, I'm focused on, you know, looking my best
Right.
photos and less focused on, okay, they're going to critique me. Especially when you get on stage, those judges, like, it's terrifying because they're like
Yeah.
barely looking, talking to each other.
It's
And
it's crazy. Like they don't, and they like some of them don't look so nice because they're focusing and they're trying not to like show emotion. I think like they're not trying to like smile at you and be like, oh yeah, she looks really good. It's like it's crazy like you're getting judged for your body. Like
yeah,
in a teeny little tiny bikini and you're like, wow, this is happening right now, which can be a little bit scary, especially for first time competitors. But after you stepped off stage, obviously you got bit by the bug and you were like, I want to do this again. So after your first show experience, like post show, did you get feedback? And then what made you want to continue?
yeah. So both, I've done two like competition seasons. So both times I did two kind of back to back shows. So last year when I competed, I did my first show and then I had a show planned 2 weeks later. And I went up to one of the judges right after to ask for feedback ultimately, because I knew I wasn't going to get the feedback by email quick enough to actually make changes happen. So most of the time my feedback is to get leaner, especially in my legs. So fortunately it's just a lot of cardio.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the process of the cut, both like the mental and the physical, but mostly the mental part of like the challenge of trying to get through it, of pushing through those really tough days. Like that's what's addicting to me. That's what I want to keep doing. And also just the improvement aspect. Like when you get the feedback, it gives you like something tangible to work on, which I love. I love having a goal and something specific to set my mind to.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do like that as far as like competing goes, because I think it takes the everyday gym goer to a next level as far as the workouts, because now you're like, there's an end date to this, and then I have to improve. So on those certain body parts, you're like, I really have to push now, which is it's kind of it's fun because you get to go and you're actually like striving towards something instead of kind of just like, oh, I'm just here to have, a good time. How has your life changed in a positive way since competing?
I think in a positive way, it's made me more like focused on myself, which in reality, it could be positive and negative, right? But to compete, it's pretty selfish ultimately,
Yeah.
right? I feel like a lot of times we can spend, especially as females, like we can spend a lot of our life like pleasing other people or doing things for other people. So it's allowed me to really focus on improving myself and doing something for me and prioritizing that time. I think every competitor can agree that time management is key when it comes to competing, because when you're cutting and when you have to do cardio, when you have to eat your meals at a certain time, like you have to plan. You
Yeah.
can't just play it by ear. So it's definitely made me more of an organized person, more of a selfish person in a good way. And just, yeah, someone that's more on top of it and on top of like reaching her goals.
Is there anything negative to it, or like maybe not like, I don't know, I don't really want to say negative, but just, I don't know, non-positive things that come with competing?
I mean, I'm trying to think like the relationships, that's always really hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that my first competition season was during the pandemic. So it was like, that was good and bad, but it was already hard to like maintain friendships, let alone when
Right.
you, especially for the first time, like you can get a lot of judgment, a lot of people that don't quite understand what that is. Like, oh, you
Yeah.
can't go outside, or oh, you're gonna just drink water. Like, what is this? So that was probably that's probably like the most negative thing I could say about competing is it does become challenging in that sense. And but at the end of the day, you find out like who your real friends are, what like squad you want to be with, like people that either understand or that are doing the same thing and are like-minded. But not only the friendships, it can also be hard on like the romantic relationships. Like
Mm,
I went through hell
I
all the time
know.
through competitions, but we've, been able to work through and, it challenges the relationship in a way that we can only grow from. So it's a good
Yeah.
thing.
So were your friends and family when they first, what was that conversation like when you had to tell them like, I'm now a bodybuilder? Like, how did you like make your announcements to the world that this is your new lifestyle?
I mean, I'm sure I did it on Instagram. I'm
Okay.
I'm very much like a goal person. So I set a goal and I like to put it out there, right? Because if you set a goal and keep it to yourself, it's unfortunately easy to break a commitment to yourself, right? So when I put it out there, when I let my clients know, when I let my family, friends know, that's the best way for me to like stay on it, and keep that motivation, keep that accountability. So I'm sure to my friends and stuff, I announced it on Instagram, put the, I'm 12 weeks out, 16 weeks out, whatever it is, set that game plan. I know with my family, it was a little bit different. I actually don't know if I told my dad until like after the show.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but my mom was like, she knew my relationship with Laura and she kind of knew that I was interested in bodybuilding. And she was really nervous about it because just she's a physical therapist, so she really cares about the body and being healthy, and
Mhm.
she saw it as something that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
It's kind of challenging to warm her up to it. My family hasn't come and seen a show yet, so hopefully that will happen one day. But I really haven't pushed that either. So
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of up to them. I told them like, hey, if you want to come, come. And if you don't want to see me in small bikinis strutting my stuff, and because you have to be a little like, it is like a sexy side of you that comes out, that's maybe something that you don't want your dad or mom to see. So my parents came to my first show, and my boyfriend and my dad got to sit next to each other, and it was, I'm just very glad that I didn't have to be next to them watching it go on. But yeah, definitely it was an experience, but like they got to go out with us post show, which was nice to have, support and things like that. But going into, let's say, from prep to like improvement season, did you ever experience what is called those post show blues?
Yes, every single time.
Okay.
It's so funny because when you're getting close to your show date, at least for me, when I'm getting close to my show date, I'm like ready for all the foods. I'm ready to be done for the most part. I'm ready to improve as well. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I want, because a lot of times your feedback is to grow, right? It's like you need to improve your delts, you need to build your glutes. So it's like I focus on that and I'm like, okay, well, that's improvement season. So I got to just get there. But of course, once you hit improvement season, then you start really reflecting on the cutting and on the prep, and then you start to miss it. So I definitely experienced that. I definitely feel the lack, like I said, I'm a goal person. Once you're done, that goal that like, I'm making it to this date is done. And then you kind of end up figuring out what's next.
Mhm.
So I know even for this current prep, I really had to focus on, okay, this was my feedback. Like I still have a goal. I'm still working on something. Just because there's not a show date doesn't mean we're done. Doesn't mean there's not work to be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's huge. It's really hard. I don't think it gets easier just because, when you're prepping, you're like, all I can think about is food, and you don't even look down at your physique, and you just critique yourself the whole time. You're like, I need to be bigger here, smaller there, this there. And then once you're done, you're like looking back at check-in pictures, and you're like, oh my gosh, I look so good. I wish I would have just embraced it, but it happens every single time. It happens. How would you like explain your relationship with food? Like, did you have a good one, a bad one? Has it changed?
Yeah, I would say honestly, this last prep, my relationship with food was really good. I had a lot harder time with the workouts and with the cardio than I did at least my first prep. I think post show is when I struggle with my relationship with food the most.
Yeah.
Able to follow, like when I follow a plan, I'm good. I'm on it. I know this food's healthy, etc. But once I have a little bit of freedom where I'm like, I deserve to eat this, I could eat this, but having that discipline without that date, that competition date is really challenging. So
Yeah.
it's something that I'm constantly working on, constantly creating that healthier relationship with food and trying to eat things that are good for me, not just there, right? I'm like a very like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I like to say money, things like that. So like free food is really hard. And I work in
Yeah,
an environment always like donuts or
I
something present,
know.
always having that constant reminder of like, why am I eating this? Am I eating this because I'm emotional, or am I eating this because it's just there? Am I eating it because I'm hungry? Right. And going back to like the things that make me feel good and if I'm actually hungry and all that.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest thing. That was one thing that I realized. It wasn't so much like my plan was my plan. If I purchased the food myself, like I was gonna measure it out to a T because it was mine. But then the free food aspect, it almost in my brain made it seem like it was free macros. I'm like, but it
Right.
was free. I couldn't say no. So I've learned a lot of the times just because it's free does not mean you need to accept it, because it's literally always there. Like if it's not someone's birthday this week, it'll be next week or the week after, and it's going to happen. Every single year someone has a birthday, a graduation, a party. So, did you experience like having to prep through any type of holidays, and how did that go for you?
Yeah. This year I prepped for my birthday. So that it was okay. I mean, here's the thing. One of the reasons I started competing when I started competing was because of COVID, honestly, because of the quarantine and everything made it easier for me to prep because I didn't before. It was like, oh, but I have stagecoach. Oh, I'm, going to Boston, or I'm doing this. So before it was really challenging because I made those excuses of those things that were happening. Right.
Mhm.
And once COVID hit, no more flying out of state or out of country, no more stagecoach, Coachella, all of that stuff. So it helped in that sense. And even with the family, like some of my family were wary about me coming because I don't live near my family. So at the end of the day, like it made it easier, but still celebrating, like, I don't think I honestly, I mean, I could, but I don't know. It would be really challenging if I had to do it through like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like I've never had to do that. I have had to do like my birthday, 4th of July, things like that that are a little more low key. And usually I just try to make funner things instead of my boring meals, but that are still within my macros or all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I so like I agree with you. Like so I started my one of my preps, I don't remember exactly which one, during COVID, but I prepped longer than I should have just because show dates got pushed back. Did you have any show dates that got pushed back?
I don't think so. Well, actually, I think one like disappeared that we were thinking about, but
Okay.
it was too big of a deal because my show day, I competed in September.
Okay.
Yeah, August, September. So at that point, things were a little bit more settled.
Okay. And so you've gotten nationally qualified, right? Okay.
But
Yes. So is that on your horizon or what is your goals going into this sport?
yeah, so I was honestly thinking about doing nationals, doing USAs this year. Unfortunately, I had a trip, not unfortunately, but my cousin was getting married, so I really wanted to go out and be at the wedding and enjoy the foods and things like that. I also decided not to do it because I was experiencing some hormonal problems, which we could get into, we could not, it's up to you. But yeah, so I really decided, okay, nationals isn't for me this year. I want to make sure first things first that my physical health is okay and getting that back on track before I pursue nationals. But I do plan on doing it next year. I'll put it out there. That's kind of my goal right now is USA's next year or some national show, but it's definitely on the table.
Yeah, so I'm experiencing hormone issues right now too. So I had to pull out of a prep.
But same.
Yeah, so it's not very fun. It's really unfortunate too, especially when your body's doing something different and your mind is like so strong. And so some things might have been happening. Do you want to speak towards your hormone issues? Like what was happening that you realized like something's not right?
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, the main thing for me, I'll put it out there, was like my mental health. So like my depression, which I'm someone that chronically has depression, but it was getting worse for no reason. Like I have the coping, I'm a mental health therapist myself. Like I have all the coping skills. My life was great. Like there was nothing, no catastrophic event or anything.
Yeah.
So I was feeling that, the low energy, and this was all before prep.
Okay.
Low energy. My sex drive was really low, and that was like a big one that made me realize like something's not right.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I ended up getting my test done, and my estrogen was like on the floor. It was like below 10. Like they didn't even give me a number because of how low it was. So, and this was like, I just started prep. So it wasn't like I'd been cutting for a long time or anything like that. I'd been doing the opposite. So it was good to have that, but it was also kind of like, okay, something like I need to do something about this.
Yeah. And that's advice. Like anytime I talk about hormones, like if someone's listening to this, I want to make sure, especially competitors, you're getting like consistent blood work. Just
Mm.
because it's so easy to go through preps and the same symptoms of like hormonal imbalances are usually like the sucky parts of prep. So I didn't really realize it until it was like way too hard. I'm like, this is unusually hard. I'm like, I've never felt like this before. And I'm pretty still far out from stage. Things weren't
Yeah.
going in the right direction. So I would suggest if you haven't gotten blood work at least in the last year, if you've been just doing it once a year, it's really nice for just because this sport, can get to hormone imbalances and it just happens when you cut and diet down because prep is for the most part I feel like 95% healthy, but there's like that 5% that to have to get on stage that kind of crosses into the unhealthy land. Um, it's just, it's not necessarily all the time to be doing 2 hours of cardio isn't something I would suggest for everyone. What did your macros and cardio level look like for you? Like when you were maybe on like their high end of prep, and what does it look like in an improvement season?
Yeah, so I'm still kind of reversing now, but when I was probably at my lowest, I was doing, I think, 90 minutes of cardio. I want to say, I don't think I've ever gone more than that. I
Yeah.
was doing running too, because my main thing is leaning out my legs. So cardio is huge for me.
Mhm.
And I honestly don't know where exactly my macros were. We never really get that low in carbs or anything like that. Like I was probably at like 1200 calories, I would say. Basically, I try not to get below 1000 calories, and I try not to get to 2 hours of cardio if I can
Yeah.
stop it. But
Yeah.
it is challenging.
Were you on a meal plan or were you doing macros?
I was doing meal plan. So that's why
Okay.
yeah, that's why I was like less familiar with like what my macros were, because I was eating pretty much the same thing every single day.
Okay.
At the,
Do you prefer macros or meal plan?
on prep, I prefer meal plan because I want the work done for me. Especially if cardio gets up to 90 minutes, like I don't have any free time to
Right.
figure out how to fit my macros and try to do all that. I also feel like I prefer the meal plan because it allows me to not have those things that might like make me crave more. I still
Mhm.
try to like my meal plan work. Like if I'm having a craving, I'll use certain seasonings and things like
Right.
that. But in terms of taking the guesswork out of it during prep when I'm limited on time, I definitely like that meal
Yeah,
plan.
I am too. And which is I feel like there's so many people that are pro macros and not meal plans, but I'm meal plans all the way. I started meal plans at the beginning of 2020 and haven't looked back since because I don't have to think about it. I have a few options I can choose from, and then it's easy. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm eating. Like I don't have to know my calories and calculate it and have my phone to, plug in certain things. And I don't, that's just, I did it before and I know for a fact I was fitting in things I shouldn't have been. And I didn't get as lean as I should have because I was having like cookies. Oh, yeah, it fits my macros. This, even things like random things I should just like that are kind
Yeah,
of still considered healthy.
more room for errors because if
Yes.
you're eating the same thing every day, like even if your tablespoon is a bigger tablespoon, like usually you're consistent about it
Yep.
versus like, your tablespoon one day compared to how much like avocado or fats from oils or whatever it is that you're doing in a macro plan. There's way more room for it not to be consistent.
Yeah. So let's I want to kind of take this to a different route because I know that you are a mental health coach. And so I think you have so many great tips and tricks that our listeners need from you and I need too. So how did you get into this mental health coaching? And then what are some strategies that you have in place for your own mental health that you do?
Yeah, so I'm a not a license, I'm associate clinical social worker. So I got my undergrad in psychology and then I got my master's in social work. And I'm currently working for my license in clinical social work. So I'm a mental health therapist. I'm not going to go too far into to where I work or what I do, but I am a therapist in a specific population. I work in like correctional mental health. So, which is very different than the training, but I definitely use my mental health training, my mental health skills in my daily life, like for me personally, but also my approach to physical health and training clients and posting on social media because physical and mental health go hand in hand, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what tips I have to offer. I think that at the end of the day, like just making sure that you're prioritizing your mental health is the most important thing. I think making sure that you're doing things that are working for you and not against you. Um, yeah, I don't know.
That's perfect. Yeah. So when you're talking to your clients and they're struggling to adhere, let's say to their plan, like what are some tips that you could maybe give them of like how to stick to things?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is to be forgiving and to keep going. One of the things I get from my clients a lot is they're mentally beating themselves up if they fall off,
Yeah.
quote unquote. They miss a day of working out, if they don't hit their macros, or if they binge on something or eat something that they feel like they aren't supposed to. Like I try to take the approach, at least with my clients, because I train lifestyle, of nothing is bad for you, nothing is off limits. At the end of the day, like you're going to make the decisions you're going to make, but trying to make the best decision that you can, right, in that moment. And so a lot of times when people really quote unquote mess up, they just want to spiral out. So the most important thing is to keep going, is to take each day or each meal as a new beginning, a new step towards your goal, instead of going the opposite direction and continuing to mentally beat yourself up. Because at the end of the day, like it's okay. Like we have the rest of our lives to live. If we make one mistake, we just have to keep going.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Is that the same? Do you feel the same way with your relationship with your coach? Like you are able to go to her in case you're having like some hard times with your own personal plan. Like, is she there for you in that sense?
Yeah, she's there for me, but we have a funny relationship. I think I had one breakdown and she's like, okay, well, what would you tell your clients? Like you're the mental health specialist. And I'm like, it's true. Like, and that's a good reminder for me because
Mhm.
like I have the skills. At the end of the day, like you're the only one that can truly help yourself. Right. So as much as like, yeah, I'll reach out to my coach, and having that accountability is so important. But at the end of the day, like I'm responsible for feeling better and for creating that healthier relationship with my food or with my exercise. Because a lot of prep goes to mental, right? A lot of
Yeah.
it, the end, it's like getting yourself through that door to go to the gym, or getting yourself to not eat something that's off the plan. I mean, it's mental, really it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Okay, so I do want to talk about placing because a lot of placing and dealing with placing is mental. So, how did you deal with it? Like, did you feel good with it? Do you felt like it was well deserved? Do you wish you would have done better? Like, how has it been kind of dealing with getting placed and judged?
hmm Yeah. So this season was really interesting because it was my first time stepping on stage without any placement.
Yeah.
And that was honestly really, really challenging because I knew like once I was on stage that I wasn't gonna get placed. And I think it's hard right now because like it's the way that our competitions work, if anyone doesn't know, is like we have our prejudging and then finals are at night. So it's really challenging when you go to prejudging and you know you're not going to get placed, and you have
Yeah.
to, not only do you have to like stick to your diet throughout the day, you also have to show up, go on stage again, knowing you're not going to get placed.
Mhm.
So it was really challenging this year. And I tried to be as positive as possible. And my coach was there for my show when I didn't place, and she was 100% mentally there for me, and ultimately meeting me where I was at and trying to keep things positive, because
Yeah.
in that moment it hurt, right? It
Yeah.
hurts really.
Mhm.
uh, but looking back on it, you can only really reflect on what you can grow, and the changes that could be made. And that just only made me go on stage for finals like mad, and like owned it again, doing it for the pictures, because I may not come home with a trophy, but at least I'll come home with some bomb ass photos. but
Right.
but yeah, so it just it fueled that fire more, right?
Yeah.
But in the moment, it hurt
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah, that happened to me. It's happened to me twice. And every time it was very humbling. It
hmm
sucked. But I feel like the drive of an angry lift is way more than like, I just got plays. I'm so great. Like I've never trained so hard before, after not getting placed. I was like, I'm going to show those judges. I'm going to show them next time. I'm coming with the biggest booty and the tightest abs. So if you're out there listening to this and you stepped off stage and you didn't get placed, that's all right. You still have time to come back even better, which you did. You got an opportunity a week later. Is that right?
Later, yeah.
Okay. So from 1 week, no placement, and to the following week, getting placed. What was that middle week like as far as like mindset and cardio? Like, what were you guys trying to do to make these changes to get placed in a week?
Yeah, so cardio increased, and I think it want to say it didn't taper off as much. Like, I know usually we like would cut the cardio the day and a couple days before. So we definitely played a little bit more with like keeping that cardio consistent. We actually didn't change much with my food, because what my physique, and that was the thing too. When I didn't place, like, I had to remind myself that my physique, I still look bomb, right? Like,
Yeah.
I still, like, it doesn't take away the whatever 14 weeks of prep that I had done before. Like,
Yeah.
dieting, all the working out did not take away the progress that I had made. And that I had to remind myself of that. And so ultimately my feedback after that first show was, trying to think, I got some like face-to-face feedback with one of the coaches, which was super cool. Like, he had me pose in front of him and tell me what to change. And part of it was my hand placement for my pose. So I definitely practiced my posing. And then another part was like building my lats. So I definitely focused on back a lot, and then leaning out my legs is like always the feedback. So my mentality was just, take all that, do what I could in a week, and really hit it hard. Like you said, like, I was mad. So I
Mhm.
was, the energy, the fire was fueled. Like, I was ready to get those workouts in. So
Mhm.
I only had a few days to do it, but got it done. Because yeah, I ended up placing first for my novice class, which was just huge, from going
Yeah.
from, I placed like 10th or 12th the week
Mhm.
before.
Yeah.
So,
So it just goes to show too, like in this support, if one little thing's off that day or whoever shows up, like it maybe isn't you. It might just be that there was other girls that were super, super, super on, like you might have been on yourself that day as best as you could have, followed the plan perfectly to a T. Like if they weren't there, you probably would have been first, but they all showed up in the same day. And then lo and behold, that's what happened. So it's kind of crazy. Like 1 week you can go from literal last to the next literal 1 week, 7 days, you're going to first. And it's subjective. So it's hard because, it's apples and oranges depending on who's judging. Unfortunately, like it's especially I think regionally, there's a lot more fluctuations in the type of physiques that are awarded just because so many different conditioning levels as girls are getting into the sport are coming. Some girls are like way, 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 way too lean. Some are really, really too muscular. Some are trying to figure out where they're like falling in like the bikini division. So there's a lot of fluctuations, I think, but as you go on, it's a lot more consistent, I feel like, is what I've seen. Um, so I think that's a good thing. So like getting feedback and just like keep going, and that kind of puts you to where you are now. So how many weeks post show are you now?
I want to say 2 months, just about. So
It's like
that's
8. Okay. So that's still pretty fresh. That's real fresh. And then when is your next plans? Like, is this going to be a longer improvement season?
right now. I think it is. Now that things are opening up again, now I've got to like kind of plan it around things. So I've already started talking to my coach, because I am going to stagecoach next week. I know, or next year. I know I mentioned it was actually something that, is problematic, because I do like to drink and I do like
Mhm.
little. So I'm trying to figure out a plan. But ultimately, USA is the end of July is a goal. And so doing something right before. So it is pretty long improvement season, because I'm basically aiming for starting prep maybe in April, or starting maybe end of March, and kind of like starting prep and then going to stagecoach and then going back to prep. That's kind of like the tentative idea. But yeah, so I think next summer. So I've got a while to improve. I'm trying to stay relatively lean though. during the off season.
Mm, yeah, so it's kind of hard to switch your mindset, but it sounds like you're fairly motivated, and then I know that you'll come back and do really well, even if you have like a diet day or diet breaker weekend. It surely won't throw you off track too much. But with your clients too, how was it prepping with clients? Like, did you feel like it was a little bit of a challenge to juggle everything?
Yes, I love my clients. They
Yeah.
are so I definitely spoke to them, especially since I had shared on my stories about my estrogen and about that. And I think that took more of a toll on me this year because my estrogen was already super low before even going deep in prep. And that just, my energy was super low as I went on. So I definitely had those conversations with my clients of like, hey, like as we get closer to my show date, like this is a priority for me. Like, and they all knew like I'd been working super hard, things like that. So I tried to find a balance and work with them. But I honestly did have to give myself like a little bit of breaks here and there, especially of course on the weekends I was competing, but it was challenging. It was more challenging this year because this year I was working a full-time job as well. So I definitely was trying to play, like focus on myself and try to help my clients at the same time.
Yeah. It gets hard. It gets hard trying to make yourself a priority when you really want them to do well, and you're like seeing them progress, and you're like, oh wait, I have to do my cardio. I've got to go to do my things and eat and stuff like that at the end of the day too, which is nice because I'm sure that seeing you do so well and like being successful is like helping them, motivates them as well. Um, so I do have like a fun question that I like to ask everyone that comes on. So it's called cupcakes and protein shakes because I like to have the best of both worlds. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a cupcake, but what is your favorite like post show treat or something that you were looking forward to?
Yeah, I love the cupcakes because I actually worked at Sprinkles Cupcakes for like 3 years.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
so I used to be obsessed with cupcakes. But I'd say I don't think I've ever had a cupcake post show. So I'm a huge donut person. That's like
Yes.
my life. But I this season I did more cookies. Wait, sorry, I got thrown off because I got excited about the cupcakes. Sorry, you want to know what
Post show treats. Which one is your favorite?
I like them all.
I know. Or which one did you have like recently?
Yeah, so I ordered, I went crazy during this last prep and I still have like 10 cookies in my freezer. I ordered like 20. I'm dairy free. So
Me too.
they, yeah, when I have to do post show, I do vegan post show treats. So I got cookies from Route 9 and from, I don't remember the other place, but I got a bunch of cookies and post show chocolate peanut butter is always like my go-to.
Yes.
I need something chocolatey, at least chocolatey, and an extra if there's peanut butter. So that's pretty much my go-to, whether that's a donut, cupcake, cookie, whatever it is, like chocolate peanut butter is just life.
Yes.
But chocolate I can't. So it's like
I
need it.
know. Okay. And then what about like protein shakes? What's your favorite brand or what's your favorite protein shake?
My favorite right now, I use Bomar's egg white protein because I do whey protein isolates, but I am pretty like sensitive. So I
Mhm.
try to. So Bomar has like a French toast protein powder
Oh,
that's
yum.
it's amazing. And so I put that on my oatmeal, I make shakes, I make my protein fluff, I do all the things with that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really good. And
Oh,
then
protein kind of crazy.
yeah, is there any like prep friendly meals that you've made that you have like little hacks that you like to eat for something sweet or anything like that?
Yeah, so I do my protein fluff. So if your prep allows you to have protein, that's definitely my hack where I put it in a blender and I do ice. And then I add the protein powder. If you can do milk, you can do milk. Like I'll do a little bit of almond milk or just water if I can't have milk. And pretty much just like making that into like a big bowl of ice cream. It's a lot of ice, so it helps you get all your like water for the day too. But that's like my go-to when I really want something sweet. I go with that. And then if I want some I make a burger with lettuce wrap, and that like just with 99% lean turkey, and that kind of cures that craving, or at least holds it off.
Did you crave anything weird during prep?
um Nothing too weird. I mean, I'm having like, if you've seen on my Instagram now, I'm having like salt cravings out of the wazoo, even 2 months post show. So I'm working on figuring that out. That's like a whole nother thing. So I just was craving salt. I think the weirdest thing is I was craving burgers like so bad. Fun fact, I until after the show, I hadn't eaten a burger in like 6 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
all I was craving was burger, and I don't even eat burgers. Like it was so strange. So I'd make my turkey burgers, but yeah, like I did not eat beef for like 6 years until recently. So that was to me.
That's so, yeah, so weird. It's like how similar like our taste buds are, because I literally you'd never catch me ordering a burger ever. Like if I've even had a cheat meal, I was repulsed by it. And same thing with pizza. I don't know what happened, but when I started prepping and I went dairy free, pizza repulses me. Like it makes me want to throw up that I see people eating all that cheese. I'm like, bleh. And some people are eating backstage pizza. And I was like, how can you do that right now? I just can't. Burgers
It's
with cheese. Only thing that I crave every single time I prep is lemon stuff. I don't know why, but like lemon tarts, lemon poppy seed muffins, like lemon cakes. It's just the most random. And then also peanut butter jelly burgers. I don't know if you've ever had one, but
I
love
have not
them.
did post not post my show, but post my coach's show. There was a PB&J burger on the menu that she almost ordered. But interesting, PB&J burgers, so specific.
So specifically, so good. I think I had them one time. I used to work at a restaurant that was like a burger place, and we had a peanut butter burger. Never had jelly, but I needed like the sweetness to take some of that savory. But if you have a nice, if you ever can do it, like a peanut butter, and sometimes it's like warm, like jalapeno jelly with a little spice. So then it's like sweet, spicy, and the peanut butter is like melty and savory. That is the combination that I was just like mouth watering. I would just like all I can think about is it. And it's just, it's so weird what it does to you, because it's just all in your head. You have it and you're like, that was good, but it wasn't as good as I had imagined.
Yeah, I had one bite of my boyfriend's burger post show, and that was all I needed. I was like, no.
Yeah. It's like the second like you can have it, you're like, I don't really want it anymore, which is so funny.
Yeah, which is it's also hard when you're getting close to your show and buying things, because I tend to like I this year I tried not to go grocery shopping, but last year I went grocery shopping. I bought all the things I was craving, and then once my show was over, I didn't want them anymore. And now I have all this junk food. Like
Yep,
so
I
that's
did it too. I
a bunch
gosh.
of things.
Don't do it. So I remember like my first show, I had a whole like maybe 2 or 3 grocery bags full I had brought with me. It was like, an entire sleeve of Oreos, an entire thing of chocolate chip cookies, an entire thing of some other type of cookies, and then king size candy bars of every flavor, and like everything, like the chips. I had to have a sweet thing and a savory thing. And it was just way too much. And then you're stuck with it. So then someone has to eat it. That someone was probably going to be me, but you live and you learn. So it was great to talk to you. Is there anything about your journey that we didn't get to touch on that you'd like to, or you have like really good advice for, or lessons learned?
Not really. I mean, we covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. Okay, so I want to finish like with just like a question too. I'm trying to think of like three things that just 3 pieces of advice that not necessarily relating to prep that you like to live your life by. Like, what are some really impactful pieces of advice that you use like on a daily basis, or you would want to give out to anyone?
Yeah, I think they're kind of, I guess, quotes in a way. I mean, some of them are quotes. Like one of the ones that really kept me going throughout my prep was embrace the suck. Like that's a huge part. And that's something that I experience with like my clients at my mental health job too, is like when we experience something bad, when we experience something that's hard, for a lot of people, like working out is really hard, dieting is really hard. We want to do the first thing to fix it or to get rid of that pain, right? And a lot of people, like in addiction, they go to that. But in reality, like the best way towards something is through it. So instead of avoiding those weird feelings, that uncomfortable feelings, like you've got to just embrace it and go through it. I think that's one of the biggest things I live by. Another one is how you do anything is how you do everything. I think that's super important, is knowing that, you know, you should be acting with intention throughout everything that you do, because if you half-ass something, then you might half-ass something else that's important, you know? So at the end of the day, you should be working towards your goals and working at your best level. And then trying to think of what another one is. Just, you know, be nice, be kind. I think that's
Yeah.
also yourself or to other people. I think that's super important. Just something that unfortunately we forget about, or we, you know, don't always think about.
Yeah. I love those. Well, thank you for coming on. Like, it was a pleasure getting to talk to another competitor that's on their journey. So I'm going to wish you a very good luck on your improvement season and as you take the road to nationals and further on in your competitive career. Where can our listeners, maybe if they love this episode, reach out to you if they want to work with you, like on social media?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is at Shell Keep It Fit. That's CHELLE, and then Keep It Fit. That's me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host, Savannah Sharp. You can follow me on Instagram. I actually changed my Instagram. I am no longer at Savannah Sharp Fitness. I am at savsharp_. Don't ask me why. I just wanted to change. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a later episode. And I love you guys so much. If you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, and rating me 5 stars, don't forget to screenshot this episode and share it with all your other competitor friends. We would love it if you would screenshot it, tag it to your stories, tag me and Michelle. That would be awesome. I loved recording this episode. It was so much fun. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. It's just getting started. Happy Wednesday, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.